Welcome back to DHAM DIY. Today we're going to be talking about trim, more specifically baseboards, and maybe a little bit of door trim as well. Well, two main types that you're probably going to be working with, and there's a third little bonus type I'm going to show you later. You got MDF right here, and then you got your like interlocking pine. Bunch of glued together pieces of pine. One's real stiff, one's real soft, and there's, a bit of nuances associated with them. I'm going to show y'all kind of how I'm measuring these, cutting them, putting them in there, and then we'll go inside and we'll talk about kind of what the deal is with them. So the easiest way, the easiest way that I've found to actually measure I'll go inside, measure all the dimensions, starting from one wall, going, whatever it may be, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to have either a straight cut, you're going to have a 45-degree angle, whether it be on an interior corner or an exterior corner. If it's an interior 45, then I'll put see it, and that way when I'm cutting it, that works for me. I'm not an expert, but if the angle's like that, you can see it, versus on an exterior 45-degree angle, I wouldn't be able to see it from looking at it, kind of like this. You can see that would be, I can't see it for Dylan, right? So that's been working. I know each piece of baseboard was 144.5 inches. So if I had a dimension that was longer than 144.5, I'd subtract it. I'd cut, I wouldn't have to really cut one ideally, and then I would just cut a section off and then bring everything inside all together. Although this piece of MDF is dirty, you can see just the difference in finish as well. Maybe that did get a little bit wet and it wasn't like that from the hardware store, but even then, right? I mean, if it gets wet and looks like that, they were both outside. So, is it cheaper? Maybe a little bit, but that's something to think about. So for my last piece of baseboard, it's going to be a 59, see it, and then a straight cut. Well, we know that we already, oh wait, never mind. I turned it around, my bad. We already know this is a straight cut. So rather than having to, move around my chop saw, keep it at a 45-degree angle. Ooh, one-handed, sorry. Ooh. It goes without saying that this is not going to be perfect, cutting everything once and then going in and just having to figure it out, but that's what caulk and painting for. If I wanted an expert to do it, I would have hired an expert. But this is going to work fine. House is a disaster anyway. So we're going to put that there. We know that it's going to be a see it cut, and this is the side that we're going to be using. I'm going to write 8 on here so I don't forget which side is which. And there you have it, a decent cut. Don't forget too, before we go inside, to get you some scrap pieces, because we are going to need them to install. So this is going to be a little bit, I guess, difficult to explain, but I'll try my best. Here we cut this piece. See, trying to line it up right about there, and then right about here. Now, is it short? Yeah, that's not looking the best, but that's all the way butted up. We can't really do anything with that. This other side, however, we've got kind of room to wiggle here. If it's, oh, actually, yeah, I probably didn't even have that right. So let's say it's right about there. That's actually pretty darn good, just in terms of, I guess, guesstimation. But, we're not going to go nail it like that because we need to have it a 1/2 inch above the concrete. Now, if you already had carpet or whatever, I guess you could just jam it in, or tile, just kind of slam it right against the tile. But if we're on concrete, we still have to put in, carpet or tile or whatever. So it would be something along this. There's a lip here, you see. I mean, that is a giant. Look at that. That's just terrible. Like a 3/4 inch, issue there. That's why I'm not taking too much time doing this, because it's just nothing in this house is right. We know that one's a 1/2 inch up, so we can use that to take up the space or whatever. Let's see, this shaky camera work, forgive me. And that'd be pretty dang decent right there. That's not bad. So this is the MDF. It's a short piece, so I can't explain what I'm about to talk about. And this is the pine piece. Now, the pine doesn't want to flex very much. So if you were wanting to, if you had a real warped wall, you'd be kind of down and out on the pine, but it doesn't hug as good as the MDF, which is good if you don't want your baseboard to warp. If you're going super wavy and you kind of nail it down, just a little bit good, it'll make the wall look a lot straighter. Versus this MDF, I mean, look at this stuff. It's just wobbly, crazy. It's a wobbly, crazy mess. But you can get it to just absolutely hug the entire wall. And that, so it's really a matter of preference, right? Do you want to keep your baseboard straight? And that makes your cuts a lot more accurate as well. Because you're anytime this is hugging the wall and it's not straight, it's going to throw off your cuts. So if you're cutting them all at one time, you might run into problems there. We're gonna raise up all these 1/2 inch, get the air compressor going, and brad nail them in. And then we'll show you what it looks like afterwards. There were discrepancies as well with the cuts, and these aren't really lined up properly. You can see there's also another issue with this house. Honestly, I still haven't even looked it up. I don't know if door trim goes down and then meets with the baseboard, or if it meets, on top of the baseboard. All I did, I just left it open. I'll go research that later when I was cutting. Wasn't worried about it. I guess you could do either or, just so long as it looks nice. I really wasn't sure, but the point remains, if there's any cuts that are off, I mean, this is off regardless, let's pretend we cut it, we screwed up, and it looked like that, right? Just come back with the oscillating tool later. Go ahead and nail it in, and just come back with the oscillating tool, and, you can get your measurements for, let's say if you were doing, putting your door trim right here, just mark it where it's gonna meet, get the oscillating tool, and whoosh, super easy to get through if it's MDF. The pine is gonna be a little bit harder, but that goes to show you the pros and cons of them both. So I still have to seat this door jamb. During the demo, it, got all kinds of screwed up. But with that being said, right, that's not right at all. So in order to fix it, just put that right there, simple as that. Give me a little mark. Maybe I need to invest in a tripod. Okay, so gonna look something like that. Of course, when this is pushed in, it's gonna, be pretty flush, and I think that'll be just fine. Okay, so this is gonna be the bonus trim, okay? What I did, I got a 2x6, planed it down. I had a lot of extra 2x6s, and I was thinking, well, I'm gonna try to make my own baseboards. So I got a 2x6, planed it down, ripped it in half, and then routed out the top, and then sealed it with some shellac or whatever. It's not the best finish in the world. I'll try to show you the, and it's kind of dirty and stuff, I really kind of just threw it up here. And then I slammed it into the bottom plate with framing nails. That's not perfect at all, but, in terms of free lumber, and you can see here a good example of where the wall was warped, where there was repairs or what have you. This would be what you'd caulk. So it makes the wall look a whole lot straighter, and these aren't gonna bend very much, I promise you that. Problem is, if the floor's warped, you can't, bend it down as much either, like to hug the floor. But that's what corner boards are for anyway. I just did this carpet, I didn't do a good job on that either. But, that's not so bad, and that's an option for you. I don't know, see, I didn't wanna do that on my living room and bedroom, but for this little tiny room, it was kind of a decent idea. And I'll show you another area that I did as well. So this is just about the worst of the worst, another corner in that room. Problem is, in the event you do screw up, unlike, I really don't know the cost difference, just due to, it was just scrap wood. And, if there's any issues with the wood as well, right? Like, it is like framing wood. If there is any issues with it, it's gonna come out in the end product. If you miscut and you screw up, that's going to be a costly mistake. It's not just run to the store real quick and, buy another piece of trim. And look how warped this wall was. Both ends are pretty much touching. And this piece of wood isn't really warped. I mean, you could just about stick your finger in there, and I couldn't get it to go any tighter up against there. So pros and cons of doing this, but I'll figure out a way, put a little shim in there or something. That's what I'm thinking. Just put a little shim in there, caulk the crud out of this. And this is on pier and beam, and it's moving a whole lot too. So I would say another benefit of this is, of course, this tile didn't go in straight. It's either the wall or me. You know, I put in this tile. I'm not too certain. The good thing about this as well, like let's say you're a lot more lenient with your tile when you're going, because I put the baseboards on after I had done the tile. You know, there's gaps pretty big underneath this baseboard, but you have that much room to work with, where if something's a little funny on the edge of your floor right next to your wall, you got a lot of room to cover that up. So here's another room as well, this kind of fake hardwood floor. You know, issues like that with the router when it jumps a little bit, you know, if you don't have a router table, which I don't currently, you know, there's some abnormalities with that, but hey, it gives it character, right? And I like it. It was a fun thing. So you can definitely try that out one day if you're doing this. But let's get back to the MDF and pine wood. Okay, don't mind this either. There used to be some paneling on here. I ripped it off, the glue. I couldn't get all of it off. Texture it and then keep going. We are ready now to go ahead and nail this in. I got my brad nailer. Don't ask me what size the brad nails are, because honestly, I wouldn't be able to tell you. We're gonna have that sitting something like that. And that's gonna be pretty darn nice. Been using my phone to record these too, and this doesn't have stabilization. You know, you drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning and you're just shaking everywhere. So, oh well. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed. I can do it with a hand tied behind my back. Go and slam one of them in there. Okay, now we don't have to hold it. Easy as that. See how this isn't wanting to bend nearly as much as, let's say, the MDF would, but... Oh! All right, learn from my mistakes, not your own. MDF doesn't do that. That's another one, right? MDF doesn't do that. So, no big deal. I'm gonna throw a couple just also into the thing. You gotta keep in mind too, if you ever wanna take these off at some point, you're going to have to rip out all the nails that you put in. So don't, you know, why go nuts if you don't have to? Oh, see that's got some bounce to it? We don't like that. Let's go ahead and kind of keep that from jiggling. See, that's bending as well. If you go in at an angle as well, you can see how the tip of the nail gun is angled. That allows you to, you can get those angles, and it gives it more rigidity or what have you. So let's go over here. I'll show you how I'm meeting these up as well. And then what I'm gonna do, being that there's this giant thing right there, I'm gonna put one over here on this corner and then just match up. Ooh, you see, we're kind of short on that, but that is okay. There's no big deal. Look, see, we're touching right there. So that's gonna look terrible when we probably do carpet in here, but what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna grind down the concrete for some baseboards. That's a little silly. Good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit more in here, and then we'll go and show you what it's looking like. Okay, so I think that's gonna just about conclude this video. However, I wanted to get into the philosophy of baseboards. Baseboards were originally intended to protect your wall for one, and also seal up, you know, any air gaps that may or may not be between the floor and the wall. Now, in terms of functionality, this is going to be functional. And the thicker your baseboard, the more functional it's going to be. Over time, I feel like baseboards became more of an aesthetic thing. So, you know, these thin little baseboards, yeah, they're gonna work pretty well, I guess, but, you know, is wood going to work better? Yes. Is MDF gonna ideally get you that better aesthetic, you know, sometimes? Sure. But if the standard in homes one day was to have gold toilets instead of regular toilets, well, that doesn't change the functionality or the original intended functionality of that toilet. You know, people may make fun of you and scoff for not having your toilet gold. Your toilet still works and functions just fine. So keep that in mind. Is this the worst baseboarding job on YouTube? You know, it might very well be, but I'm okay with that because it's going to work and suit my needs just fine. And it was really cheap. I'm no expert, you know, comments are going to be going crazy on this one, I would imagine. But anyway, thanks for watching and stay tuned for another wacky video.